1949, workmen began digging trenches for the sewers of a new housing estate along Neath Abbey Road on the west side of the River Neath. Work was suddenly halted when man-made stone structures began appearing in the trenches. It was noticed that large quantities of what appeared to be pottery were also coming to the surface. These discoveries prompted a full-scale archaeological investigation led by Dr. V.E. Nash Williams, who was curator to the Archaeology Department of the National Museum of Wales. The Roman presence in the area had been documented in a 3rd century Roman guidebook mentioning a fort called Needham that was said to be located somewhere along the Roman coastal road, Via Julia Martima, halfway between Bovium and Lacernum. Cowbridge and Lacher to you and me. We know this road was marked by a series of forts, each a day's walk from each other, one at Cardiff, Cowbridge, Neath and Lacher, which were deep in the native Silurian territory covering all of Glamorgan and Gwent. Now, establishing these forts was not an easy task, as it had taken some 30 years for the Roman army to conquer the Western territories. They were guarded fiercely by the hostile native Silurian tribe, who were described by the Roman historian Tacitus as a fiery, war-loving race, swarthy with curly hair. But once they had subdued the natives, the Roman occupation of the western side of Britain had begun, and they developed a network of roads and forts appearing at strategic points of safety throughout the land. When the Romans arrived in the area we now call Neath, a temporary camp was established on an easily defended site at Blaen Cwmbach, just above Tonner. This camp is the biggest of its type in Wales, 3 times the size of other marching camps, and could accommodate 15,000 men. Once the local opposition had been crushed, the Romans set about imposing a firm and lasting control with a more permanent fort constructed on the west bank of the River Neath, commanding a crossing point which enabled ships to bring supplies to the fort if it was isolated by a local uprising. Historians and local people knew about Needham, the fort in this area, with tales and folklore abound, but no one could be sure of its exact location. Confirmation of a Roman presence in the area had been written about by the 19th century inventor, entrepreneur, author and artist William Weston Young, who in 1830 wrote, "Many Roman coins and other things belonging to that nation have been found by digging, particularly in the gardens between Water Street and New Street. These include a very beautiful gold ornament dug up about 30 years ago." In 1919, a hoard of Roman coins was unearthed in an ancient quarry below Skewen, and in 1933 more coins were found, together with a grey-ware jug in the grounds of the county school, known today as Duravelin School. It was similar to this jug, discovered later in 1958. But it wasn't until the workmen's discovery in 1948 that the south-east gate, south-west gate and sections of ramparts revealed the exact location. Having been lost for over 1,000 years, the Roman fort of Needham once more saw the light of day. The artefacts and structures unearthed over numerous excavations since reveal the story of the auxiliary fort, its numerous occupations and lives of the men that lived there for over 250 years. The fort was occupied by a garrison of Roman auxiliary soldiers. These were non-Roman men, probably recruited from the Roman-occupied countries of France and Spain. Clues to their origins are found in the decoration of pottery, weapon design and materials used in amulets and figurines found on the site. Here, for example, is the figure of Venus, described by archaeologists as a white pipe clay figurine produced in central Gaul, which is France, and interestingly, usually found on civilian sites. Perhaps a love token given to a soldier before he left for Britain. There is no conclusive evidence about the men who were garrisoned at Needham, but archaeologists have discovered a number of items normally associated with cavalry, and, given the need to patrol such a large surrounding area, it is highly likely that the soldiers who lived here were from an auxiliary cavalry unit. As well as fighting alongside the legionnaires in battle, these troops were used to police and patrol newly conquered land. They would have quarried local stone to make alterations and build structures within the fort, hunted for food in the forests, and practiced their fighting and horsemanship skills on the land surrounding the fort. The fort itself was built to a regular and established pattern, built throughout the Roman Empire, and was designed to accommodate approximately 480 men. Each exterior wall had its own gate, which was protected by towers. Around the outside, a ditch would have been dug, the spoil from this used to make the core of the rampart. Within these strong defences lay the fort's principal buildings, which were again laid out to a standard pattern, ensuring that any arriving soldier would be familiar with the fort's layout, knowing immediately the location of the headquarters, commander's quarters, stables, and so on. Further archaeological digs have revealed more of the layout of the fort, as well as unearthing a wealth of artefacts, revealing what life was like in Roman Neath. Finds uncovered include a variety of tiles used for roofing, flooring and heating, pieces of early amphora, fragments of Samian tableware, kitchenware pottery shards, coins and gaming counters. The occupation of the site has been discovered to be over 6 phases, having originally been occupied from around 74–77 AD and then abandoned. Its timber buildings were burnt, possibly by the soldiers themselves or perhaps by local tribes. It was later rebuilt in stone between 80 to 90 AD, rebuilt and occupied again over a number of periods, sometimes abandoned for between 10 to 30 years, before its garrison eventually left for good in the late 3rd, early 4th century, so around 275–320 AD. By the end of the 4th century, it would have been in ruins, and subsequent years of stone robbing would have removed all visible traces of Roman occupation. Today, all that can be seen of the fort are the preserved remains of 2 stone gateways. One, the southeast gateway, is located in the housing estate, appropriately named Roman Way. It consists of 2 guard chambers, above which would have been the towers to protect the gate. The gateway was divided by a central spina, or wall, and this can also be seen. In front of the gate there is a V-shaped ditch, or fossa, which would have been crossed by a timber bridge. A second gateway, the southwest gate, is located next to the main road. The spina is visible, along with the remains of only one of the guard chambers. In the playing fields opposite, a slight ridge marks the line of the northern rampart. In 1954 it was reported that an amateur archaeologist observing work carried out by the Wales Gas Board declared that the northeast gate had been discovered, but it wasn't until 2010, when further work on the gas pipes was carried out, that its location was confirmed by the Glamorgan Gwent Archaeological Trust. The 4th entrance, the northwest gate, remains lost deep below the playing fields.